What's remarkable about this type of abstraction, this gestural brickwork on the floor, an unstretched piece of canvas, is that it's meant to register poet in time and space.
Good morning. I have to leave for the newspaper's pitch meeting really soon, but I wanted to quickly pop on and show you what I've been working on with the stairs because I keep talking about them and then not showing you what I'm doing. So let's just turn on the light and hopefully you can see this better. So it's not going to look like this. That is a primer that's going under the paint. And I actually didn't quite get done priming because what you saw last week at the end of the clip when I was priming down there, I actually ran out of primer. So it's just been sitting like this over the weekend. And this has been a process. So the carpet itself was such a pain in the butt to pull up. It was really hard. There was so many staples in it. It's ridiculous. And then after pulling staples out, we had to sand all of them. And so now I've been priming them. And then after that, we'll be doing 2 coats of paint. So this has already been over a month of work just because I'm working really slowly on it. And so the other problem has been that I could not figure out what color I wanted to paint them. And I had every possible paint swatch color you could even think of. But I think we finally decided on this one called Mossy Bench. I don't know that the color will show up very well in the clip, but the bottom stairwell is a very deep blue. And then I painted the top part maybe a bluish lavender. And there's a lot of paint colors that I wanted to use, but then it would have clashed with one or the other paint colors. And while I like this color, the house has a lot of greeny blue in it, but it is the one that looks the best. And so I think we are going to go with this. And I really cannot wait to see what it looks like. Although I don't imagine it will be done super soon, but baby steps, right? I do really want to finish it as soon as I possibly can though, because it is almost gardening season. And as soon as it starts to warm up, I'm going to be outside a lot more than I have been. So I probably should go buy primer actually at some point and finish that up. I know some of you will probably be wondering why I'm painting them rather than staining them. It's because the back of the stair is very nice wood. I could have just sanded that down and stained it and it would have been fine. Unfortunately, the top of the stairs is this weird pressboard stuff. I guess they didn't think anyone was going to rip the carpet off the stairs, and so they were like, oh, we'll just use this stuff. Probably cheaper. So if I had stained it, it would have looked relatively bad, and so instead decided to paint. Anyway, I've yammered long enough. I am going to be late for the meeting if I don't go right now. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. A lot of people have asked me over the years, how to be alone and not be lonely. And they ask me this because I spend so much time alone, as you can probably guess from the title of Introvert Diaries for my vlogs. I want to start out by saying that I haven't always been this way. When I was a teenager, I would say I was quite the opposite. Well, teenager and child. I needed people around me to feel okay. And when I was alone, it was really hard for me to just even exist in a space with myself. And I've had a really hard time coming up with an answer for this in the past because I've always been oh, I don't know, you just do it and it's fine. But that's not the case. I think the core of it is to enjoy being alone with yourself. You need to actually have a good relationship with yourself. Because thinking about myself, I really did not have a good relationship with myself, especially in my teenage years. I was very mean to myself in a number of different ways. And I won't go into why that was because that's a whole book of reasons. But what I have come to realize, especially throughout my 20s, is that you have to intentionally build that relationship with yourself and you have to be kind to yourself. Basically, in order to enjoy spending time with yourself, you need to enjoy yourself. I mean, think about it this way. So when you're with your friends, you're having a good time, right? Like, you love your friends, you want good things for your friends. Now think about a time you were hanging out with someone you didn't actually like very much. Your first inclination is probably like, oh, I don't really want to be around this person. So if you don't enjoy the person you're hanging out with or spending time with, you don't enjoy their qualities, just who they are as a person, you're not going to want to spend time with them. And that translates over to ourselves as well. Like, we need to enjoy ourselves and like ourselves before we can be okay spending time alone. And so I didn't realize I was doing it, but over the past like 10 years, I started being nicer to myself. I went to therapy. I did a lot of therapy. And through that, and like through building a good relationship with myself and treating myself like I would like a friend or a family member, somebody I love, that is how I built this relationship with myself, and that's how I enjoy spending time alone. And it's not something that happens overnight. You can't just wake up one morning and be like, I'm going to spend all this time alone and I'm going to have such a good time. Because a lot of the time when we don't enjoy spending time alone, there is that underlying reason of like, oh, I just don't like myself very much. Or you find validation through other people, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if all of your validation comes from other people, then you should probably, do something about that. You do want to be able to trust yourself as well. And then I think once you start building that relationship, another part of it is finding things that you actually like to do. And so I don't know about you guys, but when I was younger, I would spend a lot of time with people who like, I didn't really like all that much, which probably was like a reflection of how I felt about myself. But I also just kind of like went along with whatever they wanted to do. I never really knew who I was as a person and like what I actually wanted to be doing. And so over the past like 10 years or so, I've spent a lot of time being really intentional in figuring out what I actually like doing. So anytime I'm like with another person or by myself and I'm doing something, I like check in with my body and my brain and I'm like, do I actually want to be doing this thing right now? And I'm talking in terms of like hobbies and stuff specifically, because sometimes we'll be like working or something and yeah, we don't really want to be doing it, but we kind of have to. But with like hobbies and stuff, like there was a time when I was playing a lot of video games and I started checking in with myself and being like, oh, is this actually what I want to be doing right now? Or watching a movie that I just like didn't really like. And then also giving yourself the permission not to do that thing. It's like, just because you've done it all this time with other people or by yourself does not mean that you need to keep doing it. And then further to that, like I am the kind of person who is like constantly doing things. The work aspect is like not so great, but like with hobbies, I constantly have lots of hobbies on the go. I sew, I knit, I read, I garden, I bake. Like I do a lot of different things. And I feel like I should say there's nothing wrong with feeling lonely sometimes, that's okay. But then you also have to find ways to like get yourself out of that slump. And for me, I think that's where all the hobbies come in. Like, so if I am feeling lonely, which is fine, I'm allowed to feel lonely, I usually will be like, okay, so what do I have on the back burner that I could be doing right now that will take my mind off of this? And usually, well, not usually, I always have a knitting project on the go. I always have a sewing project on the go. I always have a book on the go. So even if I am feeling a little bit lonely and I'm alone and I don't really want to reach out and hang out with someone, which is a whole other conversation, I will go to my hobbies and see like what I can fill that time with. And generally within like half an hour or an hour, I usually feel better anyways. I feel like I have more to say on this subject, so I probably will come back to it later in the video, but I just wanted to touch on that before the week goes ahead anymore. But yeah, I get that question so often that I kind of just wanted to like put it out there. And even for me, like talking about it helps me understand it even better. And so like I know later on there'll be more I have to say on this subject. But for now, my biggest thing is underlining that you need to build that relationship with yourself. And you have to find ways to like yourself. Okay, enough introspection. Speaking of hobbies, I need to go finish up some knitting projects. If you have been watching my videos for any length of time, you know that my #1 toxic trait is starting creative projects and then not finishing them. And so I'm really excited because I spent some time over the last couple days finishing up projects. 2 of them I have right here and they're like 100% done. One of them I still have to stitch up the sleeves, but otherwise it is good to go. But first one is this hat. I think I've shown you before. I have like 15 different colors of this at this point, but I didn't have a yellow, and so now I do have a mustard yellow. Oh, and I really like that. The problem is that I want this toque in every single color of yarn that they have at the store, except I don't really have any space to store all of them. This is, like I said, number like 15. I am going to have to shift some things around on the shelf if I want to keep making these hats, which I do. So that's going to be a project for another day because I want to show you also the cropped little sweater that I made. So this one was 1,000,000% an experiment. I've seen these on Pinterest, like the super duper cropped sweaters. So I'm going to put it on to show you what it looks like. And this is actually my first time trying it on. So I really hope that it fits relatively normally. I have to put my glasses on to make sure that I can see in the viewfinder. Okay, so actually, hold on. I want to look in the mirror. Give me 1 second. Oh, yeah, mirror view is really good. Hold on. For an experiment for something I have never made before, this actually turned out really well, like exactly how I was picturing it, which is not usually how my projects go. But I don't know, when I started making it, I was feeling very springy, and I was gonna do it all in this like light pink color, but I made the sleeves. When I went back, it wasn't even that they had run out of this yarn, it was that they had replaced it with one that was like just a very slightly different pink. And I bought one and I brought it home and I held it up to the yarn I had and I was like, I can't make it. It's like 1 shade off. And so instead of doing 1 shade off, I just did a completely different color on the body of it. So the neckline is a little bit wider than what I would want, but that's okay because this was an experiment. So now I can go back to the pattern that I made while I was knitting it, and I can reduce the stitches here and then it'll be a bit different. But oh, this is so cute. Yeah, I want to make this in every single color, which is a good thing because, where's my yarn? Hold on. I went to Michael's this morning. I should not have done that. I have other projects I'm working on that I do need to finish, but I knew that I wanted something in a bit more like darker, moodier colors. And so I thought I was gonna do like a nice like deep brown with like red accents. However, they didn't have any brown yarn like whatsoever. So I got the last ball of red. I got a ball of this nice like forest green color. And then I got 2 of these, the label says ginger, but I'm gonna call these salmon. So all together, I do think these will look good. I also have like a almost like raspberry kind of purpley color in my closet. I don't have a lot of it, but I might weave some of that in as well. Like with this one, I just did like even like 1 or 2 rows of a color right here. So I'm just gonna work with what I have and we'll see how it turns out. But yeah, I shouldn't have bought that yarn. I really do need to finish the other projects I'm working on. But when I get excited about something, I have to start it. I don't know what that says about me, but oh well. Another thing is that I think I want to sell these at some point, but I'm so inconsistent with how I create that I don't know that would work. I feel like there would be like 2 new items on my shop every like 4 months. So I don't think that's like a feasible business model whatsoever, but it would be fun. Like I just enjoy making these and I'm gonna run out of room at some point. Anyway, because I was talking about like being alone and like how to be alone and enjoying time with yourself, I wanted to close out this video with just saying like one more thing about that. And I guess it's more of like a reiteration than something new, but I really wanted to underline that learning to be alone and enjoy being alone and not being lonely is a process. It's not gonna happen overnight, and some people are just wired to want or need more time alone. I am one of those people now, so it is really easy for me to just be alone for like a day or 2 at a time and not talk to anyone and really enjoy it. And just a reminder that like I wasn't always this way, and it did take time to learn to like myself and to enjoy my company and to find things that I wanted to do on my own. I think what really helped with the transition, other than like learning to actually like myself, was to start doing things that I always did with other people on my own. So if I refused to go to a coffee shop, let's say, unless I was with someone else, I started to, not force isn't a great word, I started to choose to go to coffee shops on my own. Not every time, but like once in a while I would just go alone rather than go with someone else. And after a while, it just gets really comfortable being alone and being in silence. And I know some people will probably never want to be alone all the time, or even half the time. But I do think it is really important to learn to be alone, whether we want to do it or not, because we can't be around people 100% of the time. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned something about that. I hope you find ways to be alone and enjoy your own company and to like yourself, because that's like a really big part of this. Okay, I think that is enough for me for this week. I have homework to do, I have housework to do, basically just like a lot of little things that I need to get done and I've been putting off. So I hope you're doing well, and I hope the week has been kind to you. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I will see you next time.